There's a reason why almost no one remembers these gaming accessories. That's because no one remembers trash. If you had one of these, you probably threw it in the dumpster after a week or two. Still think we're exaggerating? Then watch till the end as we show you the worst gaming accessories ever. Starting off our list is the Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller. We'd very much like to know who thought having a chainsaw for a controller was a good idea and why. Regular chainsaws are already somewhat bogus, not to mention creating one for use as a video game controller. There was no actual easy way to control the gaming software. Imagine controlling your game with a mini chainsaw having gory, drenched peripherals. You might as well channel that energy into cutting wood. Thanks to the inbuilt roar effect, you could feel the chainsaw effect and an amazing chainsaw-like feel. Amazing for anyone who wanted to feel what a chainsaw felt like. This controller should only be bought if you're looking for a collectible or a toy chainsaw to keep as a mantelpiece and not an actual game controller. But then, why would anyone want a chainsaw for a toy? In our opinion, we have never encountered a more cumbersome controller. It seems illogical to even call it a controller unless perhaps it was intended to be used by someone like Leatherface. Thankfully, only 50,000 of these exist, and our good guess is that half of them are in a dumpster somewhere.
Hey, you forgot the Power Glove!
Even worse is, released in 1989, the Power Glove was a controller accessory for the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Power Glove was intended to be used for motion control in games. The Power Glove featured traditional NES controller buttons as well as program and numeric buttons. However, the Power Glove was notoriously difficult to use and had a very limited game library. The glove also required a lot of setup and calibration and was quite expensive, costing around $75 at the time of release. As if things weren't bad already, the Power Glove only worked properly with 2 games. That's right, just 2. It failed to capture the gamer's imagination and went all the way to being the least wanted gaming accessory amongst gaming folks. Even though this gaming accessory had great anticipation due to its feature in the Wizard, it only ended up being a one-trick pony. And its one trick was disappearing from our minds in a flash. Heads up, these accessories only get worse. There is no light at the end of this tunnel, especially our number 8. Tony Hawk Ride Skateboard was a gaming accessory released in 2009, developed by Robomoto and published by Activision. The concept of the accessory was to create a more immersive gaming experience for the Tony Hawk franchise by allowing players to use a physical skateboard controller instead of the traditional joystick or button controller. One word for the Ride Skateboard will be rubbish. It hit all the wrong notes. The physical skateboard controller was not very responsive and the sensors inside the board were not accurate enough to detect the player's movements properly. This made the gameplay feel clunky and unresponsive, and players found it challenging to perform even the most basic tricks. The skateboard controller was prone to breakage. The board was made of flimsy plastic and the sensors inside were not durable enough to withstand the wear and tear of regular use. Many users reported that the board stopped working only after a few weeks of use. Lastly, the game itself was poorly received. While the concept of using a skateboard controller was intriguing, the gameplay was lacking and the levels were poorly designed. The game's graphics and sound design were also subpar, making for an overall disappointing experience. What does it take to be number 7 on our list? Be useless, but cost $200. The Video Jukebox VJ for Sega Genesis was a gaming accessory released in 1994. Its concept was to enable users to play music videos on their Sega Genesis console, making it an all-in-one entertainment center. However, the execution of the concept was not well received, and the Video Jukebox VJ was widely criticized as one of the worst gaming accessories of all time. For starters, the Video Jukebox VJ was expensive. At the time of its release, it cost around $200, making it one of the most expensive gaming accessories on the market. The Video Jukebox also had limited compatibility. It only worked with a handful of music videos, which had to be purchased separately. The library of available videos was extremely limited, and there was no way to add new videos to the system. As a result, the Video Jukebox VJ quickly became obsolete and outdated, making it an unsatisfactory investment for users. As if it wasn't bad enough, the system was prone to freezing, crashing, and other malfunctions. The quality of the videos was also poor with low resolution and choppy playback. These issues made it difficult to enjoy the videos, and many users found themselves frustrated with the system's performance, earning it a place in the dumpster. Wait, there's still more to go. Number 6 is the Game Boy camera and printer. Why would anyone want their Game Boy to take pictures? Worse, print paper? We can't think of one. If you do, let us know in the comments. We'll also like to know how many of these were sold and what these people are doing right now. Maybe they want their iPhones to squirt perfume and print paper too. To crown this terrible accessory off, the images it produced were obviously terrible, and we don't know anyone that printed anything with a Game Boy. The next one is just as dumb. Number 5 is the Kinect Game Boat. Ladies and gentlemen, this device is a game boat. The Game Boat was as useless as it sounds. It held no significance because it couldn't serve the purpose it was made for, or did it? The core focus of this device was on hands-free gaming, and that it accomplished, as it had no one gaming in it. The Kinetic Game Boat had Player 1 and Player 2 printed on the base, implying that it was for 2 players. The kid on the cover could barely fit into the thing, and it was meant for 2 players? Were they kidding? We love Guitar Hero as much as anyone. That's why this accessory had to rank this high. It ruined a good thing. The Guitar Hero Grip for Nintendo DS was a gaming accessory released in 2008 aimed at expanding the Guitar Hero franchise onto handheld devices. The Grip was intended to provide players with a more immersive and realistic guitar playing experience on their Nintendo DS, but it ultimately failed to deliver on its promise. The Guitar Hero Grip was very uncomfortable to use. It was small and cramped, making it difficult to hold and play comfortably for extended periods of time. Worse, it only worked with a single game, Guitar Hero on Tour, which was also released in 2008. This meant that users had to purchase both the game and the accessory to use it, making it an expensive investment for a limited amount of gameplay. The Grip was also plagued with technical issues. It was prone to disconnecting from the Nintendo DS during gameplay, causing the game to freeze or crash, and the Grip also drained the battery life of the Nintendo DS quickly, making it difficult to play for extended periods of time. These technical issues further added to the frustrations of using the accessory. The next gaming accessory is a fishing line. Deservedly third on the list is the Sega Dreamcast fishing controller. That was a terrible gaming accessory that failed to deliver on its promise of a unique and immersive fishing experience. Its uncomfortable design, limited functionality, technical issues, and lackluster gameplay all contributed to its poor reception by gamers and critics alike. While the concept of using a fishing rod as a controller may have seemed innovative, the execution of the Dreamcast fishing controller was ultimately a failure. But just think how ridiculous the top 2 are. Number 2 is the Konami LaserScope. For starters, if you or any of your friends ever got one of these things, then you'll remember just how stupid they looked wearing the Konami LaserScope. Aside from the fact that you controlled games with this thing by screaming, the controller, which was a headset with a crosshair eyepiece, had a really terrible design. For a game that depended heavily on voice control, the voice recognition technology used in the device was poor, and it struggled to recognize even basic commands. The design of the Konami LaserScope was uncomfortable and impractical. The headset was heavy and bulky, and the earpiece was uncomfortable to wear for extended periods of time. Additionally, the device required batteries, which added to the overall weight and made it even more uncomfortable to use. It gets worse. The device required a clear line of sight to function properly, limiting the places where it could be used effectively. Even more absurd is the way in which the act of firing was done, which involves yelling the word "fire" into the microphone. While the idea of using a headset to control games using voice commands may have seemed innovative, the execution of the Konami LaserScope was ultimately a failure. At number 1, we have Atari's Mindlink. What do you think when you hear the Mindlink? A game that is controlled by your mind? Then you are in for a treat, or an obvious trick. Atari's Mindlink was a gaming accessory that was intended to provide a new way of playing video games by allowing players to control the game using their brainwaves. However, in reality, it was nothing more than a gimmick. While it had a cool Naruto ninja look to it, the device was heavy and bulky, and the sensors needed to be placed directly on the player's foreheads, which could cause discomfort and even headaches after prolonged use. The device was also prone to slipping, which meant that players had to constantly adjust it to ensure it was working properly. It also required a significant amount of time and effort to properly adjust the sensors and get them working with the player's brainwaves. This meant that players had to spend a lot of time tinkering with the device before they could even start playing the game. Thirdly, the sensors often picked up signals from other sources, such as electrical interference or even movement of the player's eyebrows or facial muscles. This made the device almost impossible to use in a consistent and accurate way, which severely limited its usefulness as a gaming accessory. That's all we have for today, folks. Which of these accessories did you dorn? Let us know in the comments.